What's going on, guys? I hope everybody's enjoying the series so far. In this video, we're going to work on door management. So I've created this room for this purpose because the previous rooms had little black cubes where the doors are supposed to be. And this room is going to be uploaded to the description of the video for free. So you're welcome to download it. You're also welcome to use it in your game. I don't really care. So I'm just going to give a quick recap how the game works because it's been 4 months or something since I released a video. And the only reason I'm really releasing a video is because this person commented on my last video and he said, I was using our level script and I currently want to generate enemies and I want the door to be unenabled while there's enemies in the room. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's just start with like a recap of how it's working. So when you start the game, there's a map that gets generated in the top right corner. Each one of these map tiles has a number that's attached to the tile. So like when I enter a room, there's a number. So the number for this one is 7, for example, and oh, that's 7 too. This one's 8. And so it's just random. So the number is a random number between 6 and the number of game objects in this room's transform or this room's game object. And this makes it so that you can add as many rooms to this folder as you want and will always random between all of the rooms that you add. So I only have 4 rooms right now and they're all the same thing. Obviously, they're just this room because I added this room and it has doors. Like I said, the previous rooms that we had, they just had cubes. So that's obviously not going to work if you want to open the doors. I added an animator to each of these doors as well. So the way that the animation for the door is going to work is when you want to open the door, if you enable the animator, it will just open the door automatically. The default animation for the animator is to open the doors. This room will be attached as a package. So when you import it into the game, it will already have the animator attached to it. You don't have to do anything, and the box collider and everything will be already set up for you. So you don't really have to do anything on that front. You'll have to do the coding, but yeah. So like I said, when you enable the animator, the door opens, and it's a pretty cool animation. And yeah, so this generates a bunch of tiles, and then if you get to the end of one of these branches, there'll be a boss room somewhere. I went the wrong way. Hang on, let me go find the boss room. That's the item room, by the way, or the treasure room. And you can obviously just draw better icons and we did a whole video on that, but there's these are not the greatest icons in the world. I just drew them in Paint. I think I just used Paint and I just put a square, then I put a sideways square, and then I turned that sideways, and yeah. So okay, so here's the boss room. I haven't set up the boss room yet, but when you go in here in the actual game, there would be a boss, and then you would fight the boss, and then after you win the boss, you go to the next floor. Except we have this set up in such a way where it's really easy to add room information. So we have a class called Room inside of our level script. And again, we made this in a previous video. If you don't have this, you have to go watch the other videos. It's not going to make sense unless you've watched the other video. But we have all the information about the room saved in this class. So like the room number and the location and the image and the sprite, they're not actually the same thing. So the image is like inside of the user interface, there's all of these map tiles that got added to our canvas up here. The image is the actual component, whereas the sprite is the picture that gets added to the component. So the image, you can add the sprite to the image. Each of the map tiles has an image associated with it, and you can see that when we enter a room, that the picture turns into this "you are here" icon. So this is the sprite. The picture is the sprite, and the image is like the component that's attached to the map tile. And then there's revealed means you've been adjacent to the room. So like if you go into a room that's adjacent to a room that you haven't been in, it will show up like a lighter shade of gray. And then there's explored means you've already been in the room and it shows up like full white, or it's still not full white, but it's like grayish. So all we have to do today is we're just going to add another variable called cleared. And so this variable will represent whether you've killed the monsters in the room or not. And we're going to set this to true by default because some of the rooms don't necessarily have to have monsters in them. So if you enter a room that doesn't have monsters in it, it should open the doors right away. Okay, so now we need to go into our change room script. And right at the bottom, we have this uncontroller collider hit. Now, this change room script is attached to your main character, like your character that's walking around. And this happens anytime you hit an object. So the first thing that it's doing right now is it's checking if the change room cooldown is there. So if you've already just entered a room, you can't immediately go into another room. And this prevents you from toggling back and forth between rooms, right? Like if you just go into another room, you don't want to just immediately go back to the room that you came from. It could happen multiple times if you don't have like something set up where it's like a countdown or whatever to prevent you from switching rooms so fast. We're also checking that we're not hitting the floor. The floor has a collider attached to it, so by default you are hitting the floor. So this makes it so that all events where you're touching the floor are ignored. So the other thing we want to do now is we want to add if the player.current_room.cleared is not equal to true. So if you haven't cleared the room that you're in, so the player has all of the settings for the player in it, and the current room is attached to the player, and cleared is a variable that we just added to the room class. So if you haven't cleared the room that you're in, then this is not going to do anything. So if you walk into a door and you haven't cleared the room, it won't go through the door. This prevents you from walking through doors if the room is not cleared. I'm not really going to go into detail about all of this because I did a whole series leading up to this, right? But if you hit the left door, it will run. If you hit any of the doors, it will run this script to check the door. This is what actually moves you into the next room. So if you press F12 on this, it will jump to this method in the code, which is it's just right above it in the code anyway. This gets the location of where you are. It checks the location, the new location. So we'll find the first room that has that location in your list of rooms. Because when we generated the level, we added all of the rooms to this rooms list. It's a list of rooms that's attached to this level, which is a static class, right? So this finds the first room with this location, and then it disables the room that you're in, and it enables the room that you're moving to, like the new room. And then this disables your player controller, moves your character to the opposite side of the room. Like so like when you go through a door, I think I might have edited this, so I don't know if I can move stuff. When you go through a door, you should be on the right side. Oh, it doesn't let me move anymore. But if you go through the door on the left here, you should appear on the right side. So this code will move you to the correct spot. You have to disable the character controller, because if you don't, if you hit anything, like when your character teleports, if it touches anything in the middle of the room, it could take damage, or it could open a chest, or it could do whatever, right? So you want to disable this so it doesn't hit anything while you're teleporting it. Then we change the room icon, and then we set the current room to be this room that we've moved to. We enable the doors. Right at the very bottom of this, we need to check if there's enemies in the room. So if the new room, actually, hang on, let's do it like this. So we'll put this into a try catch block. This is not ideal, okay? You don't want to be doing this as the default. So we're gonna try this. Try to set this game object enemies. Actually, it should be the transform, because we're just gonna be using this as like a folder. So transform enemies gets this, and then dot transform. In each of our rooms on the left here, you can see that we're in room 8 right now. It's going to check if there's a folder called enemies. And by folder, I mean game object. So if there's a game object called enemies, then it's going to leave the doors closed. So what we're going to do is in room 7, because actually 6, this is the first room here, we're going to create that. So let's create an empty, and we'll call this enemies. And we are going to put a cube into this because we need to, I'll demonstrate how you can kill the enemies and that kind of thing. But if this, let me just press Control K, Control F, Control K, Control F. If you hold Control and then press KF, it will format the selection so that if your curly braces are not aligned or whatever, it will just align them automatically. But so if this doesn't find this will throw an error. Again, this is probably not the best way to do this. For the most part, I'm working on bank applications all day, and we don't, Unity is very unique. I'm sure there's a way to check if this exists, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. So if you know it, use that instead. I'm just going to use a try catch block. I don't really see there being a performance hit with this. Like it's not going to be enough to really matter, because this only happens once at the beginning of like the room. So it shouldn't matter. So if it doesn't find this, then we want to get the animator for all of the doors. Yeah, so what we need to do, transform doors gets this. And then doors dot find left door dot get component animator enabled. So when you enable the animator, the doors will open. So if it doesn't find enemies, it will throw an error and it will open the doors. So we need to do this for all 4 of the doors. Okay, and if it does find the enemies, which it will only find that in room number 6 right now, then it won't do this bottom part. So the doors will stay closed, and then you can open them with, when you're killing the enemies, you'll have to check if there's still enemies in the room every time you kill an enemy, and then you'll have to open the door. So let's run this and see if it works. Okay, so we go into a new room, and oh, this is room 6. So the folder enemies is here. So this should, right, okay, so we need to set that cleared variable on the room. So if the room is not cleared, then player.currentRoom.cleared is false. So if you find the enemy transform, the room is not cleared. So then if you try to hit the door, it won't allow you to go through it. So if we go into this room, it should allow us to go through the door. So let's try this again. Hang on. Yeah, so go through here, and this is room 6 again, and the enemies folder is here, and the doors are closed, and now we can't go through them. And like I said, using a try-catch block for this is surely not the right thing. Oh, I see. Okay, I thought that would throw an exception. It does throw an exception, though, because when this runs, it goes to the catch block. Let's just see. Hang on, let me run it again. Let me see. So we go into another room. Okay, so it definitely throws an exception, so ChatGPT is wrong in this case. But anyway, it says that's the best way to do it. I think that saving each of the rooms as a variable might be better, but we can't do that because there could be thousands. Like, how many rooms are you going to put in this folder? There could be 1,000 rooms in here. We can't do that. We can't store them all into like a list or something. That would be dumb. But anyway, so this looks like it works. So you see, we went into room 8. It doesn't have the enemies, and the doors are open, and we can go through them. So this is also room 8. This is room 7. That's the old style of room. Nobody saw that. So room 7. We're trying to find room 6. Room 8. Bro, this randomer doesn't like the number 6. This is a big map, though. I don't think I've ever generated a map this big. Okay, here we go. Okay, so room number 6, here we are. Door's locked, can't go through the door. So then the next problem that we have is that there is no animator attached to the left or game object, but a script is trying to access it. Okay, so instead of using get component, we need to use try get component. So if we type in try here, and then in the bracket, we need to put out a. So we'll just make an animator a here. I think that's the syntax. The left hand of the assignment. Oh, you can't set it equal to true. That's why. So we have to do this, and then we can set a dot enabled false. So if you do this, you can actually just reuse this. Yeah, so we're just going to copy paste this 4 times. And then we'll erase this bottom part. If you don't use try get component, what will happen is you see at the bottom we have this. There is no animator attached to the left door game object, so it doesn't find it because it doesn't exist. The left door is not real. So let's do right door, because not when you enter a room, not all of the doors get generated. It's based on what rooms are around the other room. So there's not going to be a door on all 4 sides every single time. So this should fix that. But then this is still a problem. So I think you could do game object enemies instead. Okay, so it should be a transform. So maybe it won't throw if I don't put .transform at the end. That's what ChatGPT was saying. So if enemies is not equal to null, then we can do this. And then if it is equal to null, we can do this. And then we'll just put debug.log here. Okay, so let's try this again. So the start room, we'll have to deal with that at a later time. The door should be, so the room should always be clear. So when you start the game, you should open the doors. And in fact, you could just set that in the animator, just enable it by default for the start room. So this is room 6. So that's good. So the doors are closed. So let's just run this again. We don't want room 6 to be the first room we find. Okay, so this didn't work. If enemies is not equal to null, then the room cleared is false. Otherwise, it finds the doors and it tries to get the thing and then it opens them. Oh, it should be enabled true, not false. That's why. Okay, let's run this again. Okay, so hopefully this will be, yeah, okay, so it works. Okay, so this is the correct way of doing this. So you don't need a try catch block. That's actually the wrong way to do it. I should have known better. But yeah, there should never be a case where there's no doors folder inside of the room. Like you should always have that, and if not, you're gonna have other problems anyway. Okay, so this looks like it's working. So now we need to deal with an actual enemy. Okay, so let's stop out of the game for a sec, and we'll go into room 6. And let's just disable room 0. Actually, go into room 0, go into the doors, and just enable all the animators by default. So that way, when you start the game, the doors will all open by default. And then let's disable room 0 and enable room 6. And we're just going to create a cube inside this enemies folder. So that way we have like a fake enemy to work with. Just for this video, I don't have time to go over an actual enemy tutorial because enemy making could take like hours. And I have made videos on how to do that already. So if you look at my channel, you can already find how to make an enemy and that kind of stuff, and the different ways that you can do that. So we're just going to put a square here and just move it above here. And we're actually not going to make this take damage from being hit by a spell. We're just going to make it so when you click on this cube, it dies and disappears and opens the doors. So let's add a script, and we'll just call this fake enemy script. And we'll go ahead and just drag that onto the cube. Yeah, right there. And then we just need to go inside of it. Okay, so we're just going to erase the starting methods. And before we get started coding this, we need to go into the level script because we need a way to store what enemies are in the room, right? So we need to find out if we kill an enemy, are all the enemies in the room dead? So what we can do is public static int enemy count is equal to 0. And when we change rooms, we can set the enemy count to be the number of enemies in the room. So if this isn't null, then level.enemy count is the enemies dot count, child count. And then otherwise, the enemy count is 0. So the reason we're doing this is because if we kill the enemy, we can check the enemy count and decrement it by 1. And if it hits 0, then we can open the doors. So we're just going to do on mouse up, or it could be on mouse up as button. I'm not sure. But basically what this will do is when you click on this, this will happen. So when you click on this square, which is our quote unquote enemy, this code will happen. If enemy, level.enemy count minus minus, if level.enemy count is 0, then we open the doors. So in our change room script, we already have player.current room. That's a class that just tells us the number. So what we need to do is game object.find player.current room number. We should really be saving the transform inside of the level, or sorry, inside of the player. Let me just go to the player class and see if that does exist. So the current room is just a room. There should be we should put a transform here. I'm not going to do that right now. We'll just we'll look it up like this, but okay. So this finds the room number that we're in. Then we want to find doors. So transform doors is equal to this. Oh, you got to put dot transform here. Okay, so this will find the doors, transform, and then what we need to do is the same thing as the change room script. So we get the animators and we just open them. We also need to set player.currentRoom.cleared is true. So this will allow us to actually go through the doors. If you don't set this, the doors will open, but you won't be able to go through them. So this will also make it so that if you enter the room, enemies should also be disabled. So we should disable transform.parent.is set active false. So this will disable the enemy's game object because it's the parent of this enemy that is died. And then when it's disabled, then when you go into the room again, it won't enable it. So then your doors will be like, if you clear the room, you should only have to clear it once. You shouldn't have to clear it multiple times. So let's go into room 0 and see if we can find it. All right. Okay, so room 7. Okay, so here we are in room 6, and there's the block. We click on it, the doors open. And it's really that simple. And if we go back into room 6 again, it's already cleared, so the doors open. So the enemy code, obviously, this is not a real enemy script. This is just a script where you click on the cube and when it dies, this happens. But this code can apply in the enemy script that you make where you actually hit your enemy. And when you kill it, you can run this code. And that's it, right? Like that's all you have to do for door management. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I am going to be posting more of these videos. So if you have anything that specific that you want to learn, definitely leave a comment because I'm more inclined to make videos when people are interested in them. I think I laid out the basics of how the game works pretty good. And like you're going to have to make some stuff on your own. So if you get stuck, definitely just shoot me a comment. And yeah, I hope I'll see you guys in the next one.